Hey, you guys, and welcome back to the second episode of the Movie Mondays podcast. And today we are going to be looking at the film The Goonies, which is a 1985 film directed by Richard Donner. And yes, this is my second take, as I did forget to look up the year and director. Okay, so I'd say this is a good film. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Here's a general overview for those who might need it, like who haven't seen the film or people who have seen the film but just want a little refresher. This is my notes which I've put, so I'm going to read them. The kid's going to lose his house because it's being sold, and he finds a map for One-Eye Willie's treasure in his attic. So he goes looking for it with his friends. They end up being chased by wanted criminals Francis, Jake, and Mama Fratelli. The film has a ton of booby traps the characters have to avoid throughout the film. They did have a dead body. The Fratellis did have a dead body in their freezer, which was found by Chunk, who was locked in a room along with Sloth, who turns out to be the son of Mama Fratelli. They end up breaking free and end up saving the Goonie gang after they were captured on One-Eyed Willie's ship. And at the end of the film, the Walsh family, so Mikey's family, are able to keep their house by paying for it with some of the treasure Mikey found on the pirate ship, and the Fratellis were arrested. So that was my view. I did stumble my words quite a bit, but we'll move on. The cast. We have Sean Astin as Mikey. He's been in Stranger Things as Bobby Newby and Lord of the Rings as Samwise. We've got Josh Brolin as Brandon. He was Thanos in the Marvel films. He was Gurney Halleck in June, and Llewellyn Moss in No Country for Old Men. We've also got Corey Feldman, who was Malfa Clark in the film. He was in Gremlins as Pete and Stand By Me as Teddy. You've got Jeff Cohen as Chunk, who was in Ask Max, and he was Max in Ask Max. You've got Kei Hui Kwan as Data. He was Short Round in Indiana Jones, Ouroboros and Loki, and he's also in Kung Fu Panda 4, but seeing as that's a new film, I don't know who he is in that. But he was also in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is kind of a nightmare to try and say without messing up. You've got Kerry Green as Andy, and she has been in Lucas as Maggie, and also in Summer Rental as Jennifer. You've got Martha Plimpton as Steph, who was in Raising Hope as Virginia Chance, and she was in Frozen 2 as Yelena. You've got Joe Pantoliano as Francis Fratelli, who was in Baby's Day Out as Norby, and The Sopranos as Ralph Cifaretto. I have not seen The Sopranos, so that is probably wrong spelling. No, not spelling, pronunciation. You've got John Matsuzak as Sloth, and he was in Caveman as Tonda, and North Dallas 40 as O.W. Shattuck. You've got Robert Darby as Jake, who was in License to Kill as Franz Sanchez, Die Hard as Big Johnson. And you've got Anne Ramsey as Mama Fratelli, who was in Deadly Friend as Alvera, and Throw Mama from the Train as Mama Lift. But something I did note is for Anne Ramsey, when I was on the overview page of Google, so when you go, oh, I'll search up this one actor, let's see what films they've been in. And then, so you get to her page, it says she died, I think it was the 80s or early 90s. And then on the overview page, it was there saying she was in loads of films after the year 2000. So I counted how many films she's been in since the 2000s, and 11 films supposedly she's been in after her death, which I don't know how accurate that is, or if they've gone and used footage from different parts. But that is quite bizarre to think of, because I've been looking at the years each of them said, so it's some were there saying 2021, 2017 and stuff like that. So it's is there an actress with the same name as Anne Ramsey, or is she acting as a ghost? Who knows? But moving on, That was page 1 of my notes. I've got 3 pages. We're now going to go into my favourite character, who is Chunk. I'm just going to put that out there. As someone who loves food, I can highly relate to this character. He's always there going like, oh, you're as hungry as I am. And there's parts where he's got the whipped cream and he says, oh, God, I'm depressed. And there's also like, when he like goes to the house with the Fratellis there, everyone's there trying to walk in the house and he's just like, oh, look, ice cream. So very relatable. Also how clumsy he is. He's like, there's a part where he goes to sit down at the table in the Fratelli house. He runs over to the chair, sits on it, and then he falls off the chair, hitting his head on the table, which is a very slapstick moment, which I found hilarious. And there's also the part where they find the body in the freezer, and he just keeps yelling, "It's a stiff!" So he's just a very funny character. I think he brings a lot of the comedy to the film. I think he is the main comedic element. I was just trying to think whether anyone else fit that role, but it's like there are people who have like funny moments, but I think throughout the whole thing he's just the funny one. Worst character, I have put Troy, because I know that the Fratellis are murderers, but Troy's just the worst because he okay. So I put how he talks to Andy is just really weird throughout. It's like he tries to move the mirror to look up her skirt and everything, and then he's just a jerk throughout. Like when he goes to Brandon, like Brandon's riding his bike to try and find his brother, and he goes driving along down the road, and he sees Brandon on this bike. And he said, like, oh, you know what I'll do? I'll grab his arm to pull him along to the car. So he's like going really fast and like stuck to the car whilst I'm dragging him along whilst he's on the bike with a car. And then he's like, okay, I'll let go just to send him going down a hill to crash down there. He's just the worst. He is the worst character. And I don't think anyone can argue that. Troy is just the worst. He's such a jerk and a stereotypical American bully. The best part is when the Fratellis get Chunk to tell them everything, and he starts going through all the bad stuff that he's done, which I have made a list of all the things he's noted on there to put here. He's put in 3rd grade, he cheated on his history exam. In 4th grade, he stole his uncle's toupee and glued it to his face when he played Moses in his Hebrew school play. In 5th grade, he knocked his sister down the stairs and blamed it on the dog. When his mum sent him to summer camp for fat kids, when they served lunch, he got nuts and pigged out and they kicked him out. But the worst thing he ever did was mix a pot of fake puke at home and then go to the movie theatre, hid the puke in his jacket, climbed up to the balcony and made puking noises and dumped the fake puke all over people in the audience, which led to the audience puking and throwing up on each other, and he never felt so bad in his life. And throughout the scene, this is the part when they're trying to get him to confess of where his friends are and what they're doing. And so he's telling them everything and they don't believe him, and also because he's like going on about everything he's done in his life. So you go to put his hand in a blender, and he's I think he goes, "Oh no, I'm too young, I want to play the violin." And it's like, so more comedic elements of it. I did see people note saying that in this scene there's laughter that can be heard in the background, and apparently that is the director laughing in the film because he just couldn't stop from laughing in that scene whilst it was being done. I didn't really hear it myself, but that's what I've seen being said. But yeah, it was a very funny scene, so I'd say it's understandable. But throughout, it's just, you can see in that scene where he's being interrogated, the Fratellis let him talk for a long time as if they're just really interested in what he wants to do. So they're just like saying, "Oh, I know this isn't what we want to hear," but it's like, what? How can this keep getting worse? So that is the best part of the film. annoying moments. This is one that I saw right from the start of the film, which I just thought was quite stupid, and that is that the policeman deserved what he got, really, at the start of the film. And that might be a hot take, but I don't think so, because he goes into the cell thinking that Jake Fratelli was dead without calling for backup, which led to Jake's escape. Isn't there like protocols for this sort of thing so it doesn't happen? He's just gone, oh, it looks like that guy's dead. No, well, I won't call backup just in case this is fake and staged so he can escape. I'm just going to walk in there. Like he didn't even rush in there. He just went, oh, I'll slowly stroll in the cell, look up to him, and it's like, oh, and then that's when he's like hit on the head with like a crowbar or something. But it's like, then he's just like, oh, unconscious. But it's like, you weren't even in a rush to find him when you believed he was dead. So what's stopping you from actually going to call for backup to get someone to be there with you whilst you checked on this prisoner? Like, I'm sure that is something like a protocol they have in prisons. But anyway, I don't think I really need to go too deep into the details on how realistic a film is, because it doesn't have to be realistic in every aspect. It can be enjoyed just for fun. But here are my other thoughts on the film. 1, how did the brother not know about all the stuff that was in the attic? There's a part where Mikey's there going like, oh, let's go like look in the attic of all my dad's stuff because he's got all this like artifacts in there and stuff. And the brother goes up there and he's just like, oh, I didn't know dad had all this stuff. It's like, you should probably, why don't you know? You should know what like is in your house, because like you should know your dad's job, what your dad's job is. And like, I'm sure he would, when the dad brings it home, he's there going, oh, look at this thing that I've got, before putting it in the attic. But it's like, how would you not know? And why would Mikey know but not the brother? It's just very ridiculous. And another one, another great scene that I liked is the God, I'm depressed scene where Chunk is there with getting whipped cream out of Mikey's fridge, and he's just like, oh God, I'm depressed, and he just squirts his mouth full of the whipped cream. And again, just a very funny moment. There's a scene where after Mikey and his friends tie up Brandon because they're not allowed to leave the house because that's what the mum says, and then so they tie him up so he can't stop them from leaving. And then when he finally gets free, there's a scene where he's going to go and find them, and a little girl's riding her bike down the road because he goes for his bike, but all the air's been let out of the tyre. So he goes, oh, what am I going to do? I need to get them because he can't drive. And then he goes, oh, there's a girl on her bike. And he goes, picks her up off the bike, puts her down, and then just drives off on her bike. I enjoyed that scene. It was just very funny. I can't keep saying funny. It's just like I'm trying to think of other words so I don't just sound like the same thing repeated over and over again. But it is a good scene because it's just very absurd that this grown man is taking a girl off a bike to go find his brother. And then and then my thought on what would happen if the Goonies was made today. If the Goonies was made today, it would probably be iPad kids trying to get a treasure of Bitcoin, because we all know that kids nowadays don't go outside. So it's very a film of its time, when kids weren't on phones all the time and went outside. So if it was made today, it'd probably be a digital world where, I don't know, they go, oh, look at this video game. There's meant to be a hidden treasure on this game, which gives you Bitcoin. And then everyone's there like, what? No way. And then the villains, what the Fratellis are, will probably be hackers trying to get to this treasure and stop these kids. So have I just came up for a plot of the next Goonies film, a reboot of the Goonies film? I think I have. So if that film does get made, I want credits for that. I'm just saying that is now verbally legalized by me. Yeah, my verbal claim for the reboot. Next one. No wonder the Fratelli place was empty. Mama Fratelli has no social skills trying to cut visitors' tongues. Because when she's there offering, like, oh, what, you want water or something? Like, oh, what can I get you kids? She's there like, how about I cut off your tongue? And she like flips out a knife, like goes up and the blade flips out. And then she goes grabbing the kid and it's like, oh, you want me to cut off your tongue? It's like, well, you can see why you don't have many friends. And then Mama Fratelli has a line, kids suck, which again, very relatable. So, I think that does redeem her in the fact that, she, kids are very, kids do suck. Let's just put it out there. So, I agree, Mama Fratelli. When Chunk goes to the water dispenser, he presses it onto his eye. It's like, that's what I noticed in the scene, because he's like, oh, water, and it's like, he doesn't put it in his mouth. He does it after, but first he goes like, oh, press the button, and it just goes straight into his eyes. I was there thinking, what are you doing? Why are you putting water in your eyes? And then he does eventually drink it, but I just thought that was quite a weird thing to do. And then, my other thought, that town's plumber is going to be rich after they broke all those pipes. When they go into the, looking in the bottom of the Fratellis, when they're, looking for the treasure, they're, trying to find all these different paths. They go, oh, how are we going to stop this thing? And then they go, oh, let's break all these pipes. So all, the whole group is there breaking the pipes. And then there's that whole scene of, the showers of that tennis place, all, going into the wall and breaking off and everything, and then that toilet just goes and explodes with that guy on it. So, yeah, that is going to be a very rich plumber. I think he'll be able to retire after the events of this film. And then there's also the part where Mikey goes to that skeleton of that explorer who was trying to find the treasure originally, who wrote the map. No, did he write the map? No, he didn't write the map, but he was in the newspaper that they saw in the attic, who went to try and find the treasure by looking at One-Eyed Willie's map. And they find a skeleton, and it has a necklace on it. And Mikey just goes, oh, you know what? I'll pull that off. And he goes, puts it on his own head. I would never put a necklace on my head that was on a dead body. I can just safely say that. So why couldn't they just put it in a bag, or a pocket? But did they really have to put it on their neck? It's just there. Who knew boulders were dangerous in cinema? There was a whole part in the cave where he's just like, oh, I'm going to set booby traps. And then he had all these boulders. And then the boulders did eventually fall. And there was then rolling after them. And that made me think, how common is it for boulders to be a very threatening element in cinema? Because I thought Indiana Jones, there's a boulder in that which nearly kills him. And then Snow White in the Seven Dwarfs. There's a whole part of that where the Wicked Witch is there going, oh, I'll kill them dwarfs. And then she goes gets that stick to try and push the boulder down. And then it hits her. And then that's when she dies and falls off a ledge. Which, that's 3 films, Goonies, Indiana Jones and Snow White, which have all had dangerous boulder moments. And there's got to be more out there. But I didn't realise that boulders were actually a common threat that I should be worried about in my day-to-day life. So I guess movies are good for teaching you that sort of thing. I liked Chunk's line, you're even hungrier than I am, to Sloth, who has been kept in captivity for ages, only eating really disgusting foods like fish heads and stuff. So, yeah, I do think he would be hungrier than you. And the whole thing of Sloth wanted food so bad that when, Chunk chucks the food to him and it drops on the floor, he was just saying oh, no. And he just rips off the chains from the walls just to pick up the food. It's so you've had the strength to go and rip, to get free. And the only thing that motivated you to do that was to get food that had dropped on the floor. so, yeah. And then that whole part did also confuse me as well. It's because there's a, at the end when he goes to save them on the pirate ship. How has he got muscles? You'd think someone who's been kept in this room chained for like ages, you'd think they'd be disheveled and all like really like pale and all like really malnourished. But he's just there like, no, big strong arms and like all like big, like strong big figure and everything. And it's just like, how? What, they just like going, oh, okay, Sloth. We know you're like being locked up here, but do you want to go head to the gym for a bit? I mean, get in them games. But it's just, you would think he would just be really like malnourished there, but apparently not. Ooh. And then also, how strong are those fake teeth to stop Data from falling onto the spikes? Because there's a part where the floor drops. I think it's when they've put that skull in and twisted it, and his hand gets caught in there, and then the floor opens up and Data falls down, and there's spikes down there. And before he does it, he shoots off these like chattering teeth on like a rope, and he shoots it up, and it like a grappling hook, and then it bites onto a rock, and then he's dangling there. And then as I was thinking that, I thought, how strong are those teeth? Because normally if you get those like little plastic teeth, they're always very fragile and they break like immediately, I'd say. Like, I've never seen a pair of fake teeth that have lasted so long unless it was professional from like a dentist's office or something. But he was just there going, no, I've got these teeth which not only can hold onto rock and, not break immediately, they can also hold the weight of like an 8-year-old child. It's just absurd. I can't suspend my disbelief enough for that little trick. How did they not know dynamite? Okay, throughout the whole film, they picked up these sticks of dynamite, and it keeps being referenced. Like, they go like, "Oh, we've got these candles," and it's like, "Oh, we need to like look through this darkness. Let's light a candle." It's like, how did none of them know that they were sticks of dynamite? I mean, they're in every cartoon, Looney Tunes. You keep getting dynamite all the time. If I were to see like a rod or something, I wouldn't go like, oh, it's a candle. I mean, unless I was in like a candle store, then obviously I wouldn't go, oh, that's dynamite. But it's like, if I were to just find it lying in a cave, I'd be like, oh, this could be dynamite. Not like, oh, look, there's a little candle there. But yeah, they just throughout the whole thing, oh, look, candles. So I know it's not a bloody candle. What you on about, man? I did like the line, which I wrote down this as I was watching it, because I just thought it was a very clever line. There's a part where they're trying to play the right tune to lower down this like secret door, and it's like they've got notes, music notes on the back of the map to the ship, and they've got Andy trying to play the notes, and they've already pressed a couple wrong notes, and they can't make one more mistake, so they've got basically like they can't get it wrong. And there's a where she's like, oh, I don't know if it's A sharp or B flat. And then Mikey's there saying to her, A sharp or B flat, choose the wrong note, and we will be flat. And I just thought that was a very thought out line. It was a very good line in that film. And then I think this is probably a contender for my favourite part of the film. Mama Fratelli, there's a part after Sloth goes to stop them from attacking the Goonies, and she starts like trying to, be nice to him and go like, oh, remember when I used to sing to you as a child? And then she starts singing Rockabye Baby when she gets the thing about like the cradle will drop and like all like fall and everything. Sloth's starting to realise, and he's just there like, oh, fall? And then it's just like, she's there like, she's like, I only dropped you once, maybe twice. And it's just like, throughout the whole thing, I was just laughing. And I've since gone to YouTube just to watch that scene because it is hysterical. How do you just say, like, no, I've only dropped you once. Well, maybe twice. And it's just like the realization. It's like, is Sloth disformed because his mum kept dropping him as a baby? But that is my notes for that. that is 3 pages of notes, so I actually had a lot to say on the Goonies. And for my ranking, I am giving it 4.5 stars because I actually really enjoy this film. I had seen it before, but I don't have too much memories of it because I was quite young when I saw it, so I only remembered different parts of it, really minuscule parts and all that. So yeah, 4.5 stars because I would rewatch that again. It's actually quite a good film. And for the leaderboard, I've put it there underneath Hoodwinked because I still stand by Hoodwinked being an amazing film. I was told that I was talking about it as highly as Citizen Kane. So, and I stand by it. I haven't seen it, but I'd say Hoodwinked is probably even better. And I just thought I would show the list of cult films. We have scratched off the Goonies now. Yeah. And that's the part I was on about. There's the teeth, the very absurd, unbelievable teeth of the Goonies film. Okay, so the next part is going to be the letterboxd reviews. And so these I've gone lowest first this time. Okay, so let's see the terrible reviews of people who hated the film. Watched this in 1.5 times speed and skipped most of it, and it still felt too long. Someone's just put the worst. I soldiered through 45 minutes of this before I had to turn it off and take a couple Advil. The cinematic equivalent of the loudest, most annoying kid's birthday party you've ever been to. If you have nostalgia for this, good for you, but it's absolute trash. The professor that assigned me to watch this and analyse this will receive a curse that will last 5 generations. Way too annoying. This is the only movie I've ever walked out of. Went to see it with friends for nostalgia and just hated every second of it. For babies and not cool for even a second when you're older than 14. If you do it, this is like a quote. If you do a bad job, you'll be locked in here with the cockroaches. I cannot tell you how much I hated this, and I swear to God, it feels like it's 7 hours long. This was the first horrific thing I watched as a kid. Even for a kid's movie, this is god-awful. I would have beaten up every single one of those kids. What even is this stupid movie? I realised I never wrote a review for this, and since this is self-proclaimed Goonies hate page, I feel like I should elaborate. I watched this movie on a plane because I'd never seen it before, and I heard it was a classic. The next 2 hours of my life made me wish the plane would crash. It was so atrociously terrible that I had to keep watching. Unlike Monty Python, the second worst movie I've ever seen, which I had to turn off after about an hour. The Goonies is like if the worst Disney adult millennials wrote a script, gathered a group of 10 of the most punchable kids I've ever seen to star in a movie and told them to scream the entire time for no reason. Oh, I've lost who I am now. The plot sucks and every adult in this movie is also completely cringe and annoying. Not a single likeable character in the entire movie. And from what I can remember, since it's been a year and I've tried to block out as much as I can from my memory, this is where at least 10 times that something a character said made my body react from cringe. This is the worst movie of all time until proven otherwise. And if you like this movie, please unfollow me and never speak to me again. So that is a very detailed reason of why they hate the film. Watch this for the first time as an adult and truly, genuinely hated it. I'm usually all about putting stuff in the proper context. Today's tropes and cliches were yesterday's groundbreaking ideas, etc., etc. But this was so aggressively charmless that I was left struggling to understand why it ever reached childhood classic status in the first place. I literally hate this movie and I have no idea why. I've tried so many times to watch it and like it, but it's physically impossible. I feel like I'm babysitting, except I'm not getting paid. Me too, sister. I'm glad so many of you enjoy this, but for me, it's like nails on a chalkboard. I put off this movie for a long time because the various bits and pieces of it I've seen over the years all seemed terrible. Even as a kid, it didn't work for me. I remember at a family get-together when I was a child, some of the other kids were watching this, and I quickly became bored and annoyed with it, and found something else to do. To be fair though, my taste in movies then was pretty narrow. I really liked things like Tremors, Jaws, and Jurassic Park. So Goonies lacked the people-eating creatures that I was into. Thankfully, my tastes have since broadened, but I still can't find anything in this that's worthwhile. For me, watching this movie feels like I've somehow been cornered by an overly excited 10-year-old who is describing their boring dream to me and can't help themselves from endlessly shouting. I hate this movie. It's not nostalgic. It's not funny. It's not comforting. It isn't a cult classic. It's shit and I don't care. People there saying, it wasn't scary at all. Why was everyone screaming all the time? As someone with no nostalgia for this movie, I can confidently say that it effing sucks. I absolutely hated this movie as a kid. I did not find it funny and I do not understand how it became a cult classic. Furthermore, I found it unnecessarily disturbing and creepy and weird, and it gave me nightmares, so I truly hate this movie. So yeah, a lot of hate for the film. That is the lowest ratings though, so you can find for any film which has really bad ratings on there. We're now going to go by highest. So yeah, we have no in between on this channel. It's just lowest and highest. People who really hate the film and people who absolutely bloody love it. Okay, amazing film, says one person. Another good review. A movie about working class kids getting taken advantage of by rich corporate types moving into their town has always felt pretty real to me. I feel like this movie you can't go wrong with. To me, it's absolutely perfect and funny too. I would recommend this movie to anyone who likes The Sandlot, Stand By Me, The Lost Boys, etc. Great adventure film and a great film to watch with your family. Watching this with my boyfriend and one of my best friends is literally my Fast X theatre experience times 2. I have no idea what that means. Wish they still made these original films at this budget level. The 80s, even though the early 2000s seem like a great time to go to the cinema and have that experience. If I want to see originality in a film now, I usually have to find a low budget indie. Goonies Never Say Die. Grew up watching this great classic. It reminds me of hanging out with my mum. So many good parts and things to list in this film. Simply epic. It's about friendship and also there's pirates. That's literally all I ask for. Who hasn't seen this? This is a movie for every generation to see. Watching this as a kid is the reason I took my ass outside and hoped I'd finally find something similar. Still to this day, I believe there's stuff out there that can be found like the movie had. And to go back to a time and either watch it for the first time again, or stumble upon a secret world and run from bad people. In desperate need to find lost pirate treasure with my friends. Favourite solo film of all time, Cyndi Lauper, amazing on the soundtrack. Josh Brolin, Ke Huy Quan, Sean Astin, all of it, 10 out of 10. This and Stand By Me are the only 80s defining movies for me. The most unrealistic part of this movie is the Asian kid not knowing piano. How very stereotypical of you, commenter. Spielberg, why is this so good? In 5th grade, I knocked my sister Eddie down the stairs and I blamed it on the dog. Again, that is what Chunk was there saying in his "Tell Me Everything" part of the film. Hot older brothers will be my undoing for real. It's been forever since I watched this, one of my absolute favourites from when I was younger. I remember playing around the ruins of the old battle fort and pretending to find treasure. Generally feels like a warm hug. I could watch this movie for the rest of my life, I would. It's the perfect staple, I think it's meant to be staple, of childhood and living while you're young as a kid. Such a masterpiece filled with imagination, you really can't beat a classic movie like this one. In my opinion, the best kind of movies are 80s pirate adventure films. Everyone should appreciate this side of cinematic history because it's so timeless and young. And that is what all we've got for those reviews. I am now just, yeah, and that is the end of the podcast. Now we have to do the wheel spinner, which we'll see how that goes. To the wheel spinner, this will also, because I'm going to be screen recording the wheel spinner on my phone, it will be recorded on my camera for the video of my face, but my phone for the wheel spinner. So yeah, it'll probably be different quality, so it won't be the same microphone and everything. Okay, let's see how it goes. So now I'm going to do the wheel spinner, which is what's going to decide the film for next week, because as we said before, 1 week we're doing the movie poster, and then the next week it's going to be the wheel. This is the wheel that we're going to be using. We've got Mickey Mouse for Disney. We've got the Pixar, we've got Star Wars, we've got Spider-Man, we've got a picture of me, because that's going to be my choice of film. And then we've got Harry Potter as well, and that's going to be Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts. And then after that we've got additions, which I haven't got photos for on there yet, but that is The Muppets, Jurassic Park, James Bond, and DreamWorks. And so there's 10 different lists, 10 different categories on there altogether, and so where if one of those come up in the spinner, then we go for the first film of that franchise. So it'd be the first Harry Potter film, the first Marvel film, so like Iron Man, first Star Wars film, so that'll probably be A New Hope. Yeah, that's because that'll probably go A New Hope, then through to the sequel, the prequels, and then the sequels, and then Snow White for the first Disney film. But now let's spin the wheel to see which film is going to be our topic for next week. It is going to be Pixar. We've got the first Pixar film next week, which Toy Story, I believe it is. So I'll double check. But yeah, I think next week is going to be Toy Story as our category film of the week. Okay, so I did check, and the first Pixar film is Toy Story, which was 1995. So next week, which I'm going to be very excited for now because I love Toy Story, is going to be Toy Story, and hey howdy, hey partner, I can't wait to discuss that film with you guys. But as for today, I have been Jay Greening, and this has been JC Productions Movie Mondays podcast, episode 2 of the Goonies, and I will see you next time for Toy Story. Have a great week, everyone, and keep watching movies. Goodbye.